Thank you for inviting us to join you today. From Washington, D.C., one of our other panelists is from the Washington area as well, although I think he's moved to a different area. But I want to welcome everyone today to this second session on technology and being invited by FHA to participate. I've been to the FHA show, and as I said in our last session, it's a pleasure to be here, although I would have much preferred to be doing a technology session in person and really focusing on everything that's available and the new trends, and hopefully we will be able to do that soon. Today's subject is the looking at challenge to opportunity in the post-COVID world, but technology really helps to enable things. It's certainly not the end-all, but it does help us to enable how we use technology and how we are able to meet operational needs. And I think when we do introduce our panel in a few minutes, you'll understand that they come from different areas of operations and have different perspectives, but there's a lot to share in this area, that it's not just about the challenges that were created, it's about the opportunity of what we can do with new ways of operations and things that are available to us. But before we get started, I'd like to reintroduce the IFBTA to you. The IFBTA, or International Food and Beverage Technology Association, is a not-for-profit industry trade association. It's global. We do have chapters in several countries, but also we have a virtual chapter around the world, so you don't have to worry about whether we are in Singapore or not, although I would hope to be as things come back online and as we partner with groups like FHA. We are very focused on food and beverage technology, but welcome all who are interested in it. Operators, suppliers, friends of technology, anyone who really has an interest. And everybody has a seat at the table, but we're really there for the networking and education of our members. Besides our chapters, we do a lot of industry events, and actually one of our panelists and I met for the first time at an industry event working with a sister show to FHA in Bangkok a number of years ago. And so we do a number of things to reach out and promote technology, but also we have a certification program that is free to all members, and it can help you to understand all the different technologies that are available in food and beverage. And by the way, food and beverage is a big, food and beverage is a really big area in that it includes everything from lodging to restaurants to airports and travel plazas, convenience stores, pubs and bars. So it's a big area. And then lastly, we have a lot of industry partnerships and support. We want to support the industry in this area, and more information can be found at the ifbta.org website. So let's go ahead and introduce our panel for today. And I'm going to ask them to turn on their videos and their microphones now. And so we have a good panel today that represents both food and beverage as well as lodging, as you'll learn in a moment, and also has different aspects, both globally and regionally, as it relates to the challenges that are out there and the opportunities as well. And so as we take a look at this, our format today, we would like you to submit any questions that you have into the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen. And that way we will have a Q&A session at the end. And also we're going to go ahead and issue now a poll to you, which you can answer over the next few minutes. And at the end, we'll talk about the poll results as well. So with that, let me go ahead and ask each one of our speakers first to introduce themselves, their company, and a little bit about their perspective. And then we'll go into a moderated Q&A session that I will moderate, and then we'll open it up to questions that you've submitted in the Q&A box. And Celes, if you turn on your camera, we'll introduce you in a moment. But MJ from Five Guys, why don't you go ahead and take it from here?
Great, thanks, Rob. Good morning, good afternoon. As Rob mentioned, my name is MJ Warsham. I am a IT project manager here at Five Guys Enterprises, based in the U.S., Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, to be exact now. Five Guys is a global brand. For those of you in Singapore, you might recognize my background. This is our store in Plaza Singapura that opened last fall. We have over 1,650 locations across 20 plus countries at this point. Things fluctuate quite a bit. We have quite a few more countries on the horizon as well. And I'm really excited to be here to sort of share what we've gone through, both from a domestic and an international perspective, with jurisdictional changes, very different philosophies around COVID response, and also just very different economic rebounds in terms of what we've seen to both get there and also the speed that we've sort of seen things normalize, so to speak, compared to before the pandemic.
Great. And Celes, would you like to, and Celes and I met actually at the Bangkok show. I don't know how many years ago it is, but Celes is an operator both in food and beverage and also in the lodging side. So Celes, why don't you introduce yourself and your company and your perspective?
Yes, thanks Rob and FHA to have us here. So basically, we are family organization office here dealing in hotels and wellness, especially in wellness. So we run Kamalaya. It's a wellness cum spa resort in Thailand, in Koh Samui, where we got 46 awards for being one of the best in wellness and spa with 90 rooms. And then we run a business hotels down in Thailand, Bangkok. So I'm going to try to share what we have seen in the opportunities and what has happened during the COVID period, based some on technology and how technology has helped get the connection with the clients and the guests around the world and in Thailand. So
let's go ahead and just sort of talk about some of the things that you both are seeing in there. So first of all, I want to start with Celes. I'm just going to ask you a question because you are operating a very well-known and high-end wellness and hotel and spa, but I have to imagine that COVID may change the way that people look at their wellness and also how you operate things like a spa.
Correct. So I was hearing your conversation before where doing wellness or doing massages and all, basically you have to be at the place and physically get touched and get the massage or get the wellness for yourself. So traveling is definitely into the venue is very important. You cannot do a Zoom massage or that hasn't happened yet with the virtual reality and AI. But what has changed also surprisingly is the yoga and exercises and the mindfulness is where we have seen and branched out into getting into Zoom calls and using technology for people that have visited the premises, that understand the experience. And then they're getting all our practitioners and our specialists in mindfulness, being happiness, sleeping, yoga, Pilates, going online and doing this in their houses around the world. So this is where we're seeing the opportunities come. And since people are locked up in the house, they take out their yoga mat and they're doing it indoor, or if they have a balcony, they're doing it there. And this has really got opportunity for us. And
to take your brand and actually offer it around the world.
Correct. So we are like doing this wellness at their house for them, exclusively for their house, and then they call in. And then we have speakers that do a one-on-one with our customers. So that we have seen an a lot of interest in that. But physically coming to the place from the occupancies of 90%, that has dropped down to practically 10%, single digit, because travel has been stopped, and the government in Thailand has their new policies for allowing tourists to come in. But what I see in the business hotels, I think that will be more challenging because business travelers will not travel anymore. They will get on the Zoom and they don't want to go and meet into conferences. And that's where I see a lot of technology and interaction through Zoom and all, because you can still do that and get the same end results of meeting a person through through video or conferences like this. So our business side hotel is definitely affected and will, I think, 6 months to a year. But what I have seen Marriott and many of the business hotels here in Thailand do, they started to do a day pass, meaning they're allowing people locally to come and use the swimming pool and the physical, so you don't have to check into the room. And I think that's a pretty smart way of using their facilities as a day pass.
And it's probably not going to change once COVID is over.
They might continue doing that, or they might
Right.
change it out because there's no clients now. So
Right.
we'll see what happens.
Right. Well, Celes, you're bringing up some rather interesting points that we would have gotten to later. So this is very good to put MJ on the spot with this. But what you've seen and what you're doing with your group of hotels is seeing the opportunity of COVID to reach out and get to places you couldn't have done before. And I am reminded that when things really got going on the internet, it really, and online ordering things, it really allowed restaurant companies to compete with the big guys and, on a local basis and reach out and connect. So MJ, with Five Guys, similarly, how has COVID impacted you to be able to create new business models, and will they be after, will they stay afterwards?
Yeah, I think everybody was really incentivized to find any way they could to maximize their space, right? So for us, we didn't look in some of the alternative methods that a lot of brands did, which I'll touch on what I've seen that I think is really cool. But for us, it was just expanding order modes, right? Curbside pickup, going into things like contactless delivery. Some of that was facilitated by the delivery partners, some of that we had to do through our native channels as well. And then really outside of that, I think also looking at markets where you have less coverage of off-premise channels, right? Maybe you don't have as robust of a partnership with some of the big four we have here in terms of delivery partners. So you start to look at some of the smaller players in a market. In the U.S. we have companies that do just states, that do just regions that we normally wouldn't look at because the effort in their technological capabilities for like integration, for example, are vastly behind, right? A lot of their other partners that are larger just because of the ability to develop those things. But when you're in the middle of a pandemic and you've got secondary markets that really need that volume, you look at everything. In the U.S. we've also seen a lot of brands. Where we were fortunate, I think, in terms of we already are fast casual, so everything's bagged, whether you eat it in or you take it out. But companies like Brinker, for example, that are in Chili's here in the U.S., spinning up virtual brands, right? That they now see are good ways to leverage a space you already have, right? For maybe day parts that you can really beef up through different products. There's a wing product. The funniest one I think I saw was Pasquale's Pizza, which was spun out of Chuck E. Cheese here in the U.S. because obviously you're not taking your child to a facility with other children to run around and play and play games and whatnot. But I think you'll see these continue because at this point, why not, right? Once you start to get that traffic back in, why would you not just want the upside of having your foot traffic back and then also these more robust off-premise channels?
Is technology global for you? I mean, is it universal? Are the requests that you're seeing coming out of Singapore, for instance, the same kinds of requests for technology and working with customers and employees as you see in other parts of the world?
It differs a little bit. With Singapore, a lot of what we did on the fly was around the operational aspect, right? So we're looking at plexiglass barriers, we're looking at signage, we're looking at ways to promote consumer confidence in our food safety and cleanliness procedures. Market by market, based off of their existing partnerships, right? You tend to see we already had some countries that were already maxed out with all of the delivery providers in their market, and then we had some that were not. So they had some room to kind of grow. In Europe, I would say we've had the most requests just because I think they took the longest sort of, we, at least from what I've seen, probably the most impactful lockdown of the markets that we operate in, and they're kind of sliding back into that second wave now, and so we're starting to see hours clamp down, capacities shrink. So it does vary. The U.S. was pretty well stable with what we had, but we were able to piggyback off of a lot of what we saw here, and then vice versa, right? We're watching Asia get through it a little bit faster, and then Europe, and then us, and then now we're cycling back, and the learnings continue to influence further decision making elsewhere.
Right. Celes, similarly, you probably had to make changes to the operations. You've talked about what you might have done outside, but what changes have you had to make within your operations to accommodate not only the pandemic, but what you think is going to be the going forward piece in your operation?
Okay, so we since we are operating two types of sectors, so the first business sector was sad that for two of our hotels we had to shut down. So when it first hit, we closed down very quickly because guests and all. But the second, the wellness hotel, we did not close it, and we had started to do the testing. So we, first of all our guests that came in local, some we kept them for quarantine, and we did daily, every 2 days we would test them and would not let them have any contact. Then we had all our staff tested. Basically, we tested all our staff. So it was like a quarantine kind of wellness. This was the first 1 month, 2 months where people were not traveling at all. But now as the borders started to open, we got new clients coming in. So everything, the buffet line, we did not have any more buffet line. Nothing was opened out there. It was all a la carte. In the beginning, we did not have any massages. The first few months, we didn't do any contact massages because everybody was very fearful. But later on, now we are open to giving all the services of massages, wellness, and yoga, Pilates, all those things are back for the clients and the customers.
But do you also sell retail products along with that?
Yeah, so we
you
have.
You could brand your retail products and sell those as well globally.
Correct. So we have a spa range and a spa range that is all sold. Massage, all those were online, where clients could come in and buy online and all. And but for the business side, how we operate, we also did not have a buffet line. The buffet line was closed. Restaurants were closed because this was all seating, and we had like a limit per square meter. And functions for weddings or businesses were also capped by the government per square meter per person. So if your ballroom was 200, you could only have 200 people in the ballroom for events. So we were kind of controlled for the events of contact. And it was really tough. The first few months were really tough for getting people back into all the outlets and all, because a lot of promotions and things like that. But I feel in Thailand especially, the hotel business is really suffering. And we will have to see in the couple of months what the government does to open our borders or not.
Well, you bring up a interesting question, that there are a lot of different laws around the world. Your travelers come to you from all over the place, and obviously people are going in and out of Five Guys from all over the place. So, how do you leverage technology, or how are you forced to use technology to make sure that you're meeting the different regulations, but also the requirements of global travelers?
I'll take that first. I mean, the big thing for us really comes down to our operational office staff, right? And where do they go, right? So, for example, we have an office in Hong Kong. They can get to and from Singapore, right? But there's a 14-day quarantine, right? So You hop over, you stay for 14 days. You get to you know, work, do things outside of, you know, visiting stores and training and whatnot, and then you have a couple of days in the stores, and then you hop back, quarantine again, right? Rinse and repeat. It certainly put a wrench in what we've been trying to do with training, right? We have a store pending for opening in Malaysia, actually. And so there's a green lane between Singapore and Malaysia that we're really looking forward to hopefully getting some approval to use. But a lot of, I mean, there's a lot that we've had to rely on just what every other company's had to. Zoom, Microsoft Teams, a lot of virtual training, virtual meetings with new franchisees, right? We're looking at new markets. We can't have them in the office. We can't go visit sites.
But,
right?
I think one of the things that you're actually pointing out is that a lot of the technologies are actually globally available, and therefore you can focus on your business, but use some of the global technologies available, even for you, Celes, you know, as it relates to doing virtual training and virtual massages. I'm sure will come at some point, but I'm not sure what industry that might be in. So, but there's you know, a lot of opportunity to take advantage of some things that are off the shelf and offered globally as well, which is a good thing. But before we go on, Celes, before I continue that question with you, I do want to remind people that you can submit your questions in Q&A. We do have people that have done that already. And also, we're going to go ahead and issue a poll right now to you that you can answer over the next few minutes. And at the end, before we wrap up, we'll go over the poll results on this as well, just to take a look at what some of you are thinking, you know, in this. So, Celes, you know, so just to sort of continue that, there are obviously the tools that are available globally, which make it easy, you know, even to do this webinar. However, people were not always prepared. Were you totally prepared technology-wise for what you needed to have in place, or and if you were or were not, what changes did you have to actually make and put in place, and was it easy to do?
Yeah. So for us, we didn't have the whole one-to-one on the wellness side with people. That was something different. But once people couldn't come to us, they reached out to us by technology, and then we started to do small content. Now it's been a full-blown content kind of half an hour to 1 hour content that we're making our own content at the wellness places, and then we're putting out on the website, and then people come in and enter the classes. You can do breathing classes, you can do longevity, sleeping, you can do stretches. So every single category in the mind, body, soul has become into content with all the practitioners that we have there. We have doctors, specialists that have come up with these programs. So we didn't have that before, but now we went online and using technology to give this out to all our clients that know us.
One of our panelists on the Trends panel just before this talked about virtual reality, and I don't know, you know, if there's the virtual reality to take your trainers and yoga instructors and actually make them virtual or holograms or things, but you know, one of the panelists said that that's the way of the future in speaking, and I don't know if you can see some of those things as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, if we were a brand name like Tony Robbins or any of those people, Tony, it would be good. But many of the people are known just in the wellness space. It's a very focused and niche client. They're not really motivational speakers for everybody. So taking their physical body or their presence hologram to stages and all may not be the perfect fit now. But yeah, in the future, whoever stands out, it might work.
So MJ, were you guys totally prepared? Did you have to put anything special in place or make changes to what you were doing?
Operationally, like I said, we didn't have much, right, that we really needed to do. The big things for us came around fountain drinks, actually. Obviously, we're well known for having freestyle machines from Coca-Cola in most of our restaurants. So we had, along with the rest of the industry, an uptick in beverage, bottled beverage ordering, which got a little dicey at times, right? Because I think you see everybody's got the same ordering habit, right, for the longest time, and then everybody's 5x on their bottled drink ordering overnight because they can't sell fountain sodas. So that was a big one. A lot of what we did from a tech perspective, though, was around how do we automate the changes, right? How do we not have a team of people making hours changes manually, store by store, across 40 SP platforms, their various dashboards. So we really worked to find ways to automate that so that we could export one file on an hourly basis with all changes and then disperse that information out there. Really just because our bandwidth was low and it was all hands on deck with a lot of different initiatives. But fortunately, like I said, the concept from an actual food perspective, everything was in place. It was really just, how do you deal with the unknown, right? What's tomorrow? What are your hours?
Did that flow through to, did that everything in place flow through to franchisees and people that are operators like Singapore and other parts of the world? Were they all pretty much on the same piece?
Yeah, I think if there's one thing that we're really, really, really focused on is quality of the experience, from the food to feeling safe about the restaurant to the interaction you have with our associates. And if there's anything we've focused on, it's been that, right? I mean, we had daily calls, we've had updates, and we had masks and all of the different supplier information from all of our different large broadliners to get masks and sanitizer and cleaning supplies and everything that was needed, spun up very quickly. And that's something that are all very aligned operationally and from a supply chain perspective, top down. So it's as easy as possible, but it's also consistent, right, to make sure that the brand is protected.
So Celes, you operate in an environment that clearly requires high personal contact and touch with your guests, but also a higher standard of staff. If we take a look at the staff side, how have you been able to change changed how you communicate with your staff and with your guests besides the virtual workouts and things, but what has changed in the way that you need to deal with your staff?
So we, for 90-room villas, for 90 rooms, villas and suites, we have about 600 staff. So that's every guest is a six staff equivalent to one guest. And so all the restaurants, all the outlets and all they've all been definitely trained, and we keep half of our staff in-house for 15 days or 20 days, meaning they cannot go out at all. They live in the premises. And then another 15 days, the other staff come in. So we do not blend or let them mix among each. So if any group gets the COVID or God forbid, the whole staff are not affected. So we have made it into 3 groups. We have divided 600 staffs into 3 groups of 200 that cross. So there's 10 days and then they come back. So it's a cycle that we have kind of put in. So all our guests are safe in that process. And then it goes for the massages, for the cooks, for the cleaners, for everything. So we have divided.
When they're off, have you taken some of the tools, the technology tools, to do training or keep them up to speed, like the video piece? You obviously are using some technologies to test them and make sure they're safe when they come back, because they're not going to quarantine for 14 days before they come on for, I think, 15 days.
Correct. So we have the test kits that we do the test kits on them every time when they come back. So they are kept in the hotel 7 days. They don't contact any of the staff. I mean, any of the guests or any of the staff for 7 days before they come out into the premises. So it's a very, very safe process that we have done in the wellness, in the premises that we have done.
Mm-hmm. So when it comes to connecting with guests, have you, again, besides classes and things, you know, it occurs to me that you now have the opportunity to connect with the guests like never before they come, when they come, and afterwards, you can continue with them. So what types of technologies or guest connections or customer facing things have you now been able to put in place really to have a longer connection with them?
Correct. So now after they've experienced with us, now they can go online onto our website and experience exactly what they did in the classes and the speakers. When they go back to their countries, they can continue. But except the good food and the wellness food and all, I don't think we have got into the ghost kitchens or maybe try to franchise with someone in those countries and make those healthy cuisines and send that might be the next business.
Five Guys may offer you some kitchen
Yeah,
space.
maybe Five Guys can sit down and work with me some healthy meals and detox meals for our guests that go back. But that's the opportunity, next opportunity that we can give the clients the experience, the full experience.
Right. So MJ, same question. Have you changed the way that you have been communicating both with your staff and also with your guests?
Yeah, I think for those familiar with the Five Guys brand, we're historically not a brand that does a lot of marketing. And that is drastically, for us, drastically changed compared to the industry. Still not, you know, a leader in it, but digital marketing and placement of our platforms, of the digital platforms, right, has been really key. Our communication with the customer, I would say we've been more inclined to work with our third-party partners and some of their outreach. We have done some targeted stuff as well through digital channels, but
you're talking about third-party technology partners for outreach?
Third-party delivery partners. So
delivery partners.
Right. So if they offer us some sort of promotion, right, to try and either increase incidence or increase or decrease the time between visits, right? Acquire new customers from their platform through free delivery, right? We're all about that. But we still haven't done anything like one-to-one consumer marketing. There's not something we'll really ever get into. But the big thing is really, how do we organically, right, without putting a big sign on the window saying this is the entire list of things that we do on an hourly basis to protect you from COVID. How do we portray that so that the consumer is confident? And that's, you have to be subtle, but at the same time, it has to speak for itself. And so that's been a big challenge, I think, for everybody. And I think we've done a pretty good job of that, which stems from our, strict protocols that we had prior to COVID, right? It was really not a far stretch for us to add a couple more things, as needed for specifically this.
Well, the concept of partnerships also plays, obviously, you must have a number of partners, Celes, that you deal with. And the question is, have you done some work with your partners, whether they're food partners or whether other resources there where you've been able to link the technologies to provide additional products and services and connection points and resources, because resources would be very important in education in your area for your guests?
So our speakers that are around the world, we have definitely used technology to come educate them, because we have a lot of visiting practitioners and visiting doctors that are now not in our place. So we approach them and then we do the similar webinars and topic based. Same, Kamalaya really has its niche clientele already. For 10 years, the marketing is basically very, very word of mouth. It's all been digital and you must experience it and all. So now we have started to try to use webinars and one-to-one with those speakers, with our client. So it's not that we are in everybody. It's a niche. It's a very niche customer base that we have out there that people come in and try to get this wellness in Kamalaya. So yes, we're using technology and trying to connect with a platform.
Okay, so we've had a number of questions that have actually come in from our audience, and I'd like to sort of switch gears and talk to you guys about some of those questions. You know, in the last panel, there was a conversation about robotics, and one of our attendees wants to know whether Five Guys has considered using a conveyor belt system, I suppose, like some of the other ones in the future, for pickup from the belt and pay, to ensure less contact points.
We've tossed around a number of things. The conveyor belt is not something with a traditional focus and core team here in the U.S. that we see as much. We actually do have a test store open with some technology around an actual drive-through. So it's mainly just for pickup, right? We don't have an ordering or a food queue that you can do with a traditional drive-through, but we do have the opportunity to hand you a bag, right? Or even look at some of the options around having the bag in a, here's your code, go to this locker, right? That type of thing. I think everything's in play as we start to adapt and settle in. But how far will we stray? I think the answer is as far as we need to. But obviously we don't want to shake things unnecessarily, right?
Sounds like the bigger question really was about contactless to the customer.
Right. Yeah, I mean, we've done a great job, I think, both with our partners giving that option, and then also, through our native options, through fiveguys.com and our Five Guys app for ordering, to be able to give customers the option to ask for that, and then we can facilitate it. The lockers, I think, are one thing. The drive-through lane, all of it's in the spirit of the conveyor belt and the idea of less contact points. But I think there'll probably be ways that are a little bit more low tech that we can do that, just because the order can just sort of sit there and people can grab it.
Right. So does contactless, other than the massage, have a meaning to you, Celes, and are there specific technologies that you're looking to put in place for contactless?
At the moment, we don't have that yet, but for the contact, that is what is out there is basically the regular registration, where we try to find out where they've been traveling, or where they've been before. We kind of do a small research on where they've been traveling before they come. But they have to get quarantined for 14 days, so the tech is already kind of secure on them visiting us.
I'm going to guess, I mean, obviously as a global company, Five Guys deals in data all the time, but as a smaller operator that has people coming from all over the world, and being a high-end luxury, preference-driven type of environment, you must be collecting a lot of data, Celes, and have the different laws around the world and different new data sources created a challenge for you in protecting that data going forward?
Yeah, so the data that we collect both their health data. We have all their health.
Which is an added level of complexity.
Yes, so we have all their blood types, what kind of medical, and also that is still very paper and recorded into a, it's not yet recorded digitally, but I think the opportunity will be there where we have a lot of data about the person's health records are there. So putting it up into the cloud and having that data of all their various kind of what they can eat, what they can, the medicines and all, is a big opportunity to get it all sorted out, data into a cloud. So it can be like a passport for them. If something happens, we have all their blood tests, we have all their what they can eat, diabetes, everything. So God forbid they fall down sick or somewhere, food poisoning, we have all that data with us, but we cannot share it with anybody, but it's all there.
And you have to follow the various data requirements, you know, that for data security to lock that
Yes.
down.
Yeah,
Yep.
we have their weight, we have how much they used to weigh. So we can see their pattern of weight, how they've eaten, what they can eat. So they like, we have their BMI, we have, yeah. So we have their body mass, their water, their sleep patterns, and all that is all recorded.
And MJ, the same question for you. I mean, customer data, you're getting a lot more of it these days. I mean, employee data was one thing, but you're certainly getting a lot more customer data, also a lot more online transactions and things. How has this changed how you have to follow data security guidance and different regulations around the world?
Yeah, I think the big thing for us is obviously GDPR was a good benchmark to sort of work off of in other regions, right? It's a fairly stringent set of regulations, and obviously the right to be forgotten and whatnot. We've seen some carryover into the United States that we were prepared for. We historically do not keep customer data because we don't use it as much. So we've been pretty good about, even with the higher number of digital transactions, you know, there's been some questions about should we start, you know, dabbling in this world. We have some partnerships with some data analytics firms that are able to do things, you know, hashed, and so we don't have to actually know that information and be responsible for it.
And there's machine learning as well that can help to sort that data.
Right, but we don't want to have ownership of it, right? We have a data warehouse for sales data, and we looked at lots of trends. We looked at lots of sales trends, and you know, what are off-premise channels this week compared to last week, compared to the same week last year. That whole thing. We've looked at a lot of that data, but consumer data we've tried to shy away from. But there are some, you know, desires going to different countries where culturally it's a bit more expected. Or maybe there's a little bit less concern about that. So there's, you know, you meet a franchisee that's, we do it all the time. Nobody cares about consumer data, right? It's very, very lax. So it becomes a bit of a,
yeah, but if the franchisee breaches it, you get blamed.
Exactly. So that's why we have to sort of preach that we have one sort of, you know, rule that we follow, and regardless of how strict one region is and how lax another is, it's always going to be that way.
So we have another question from one of our attendees about patterns. You know, I suppose, Celes, we were talking on the last panel that people are changing up their menus and they're changing up their patterns. You've also mentioned the traveler themselves. You know, as things move forward, and we're talking about opportunities here. So as things move forward, what patterns are you seeing changing, whether it's food and beverage, health and wellness, or just the hotel traveler that you think may have a positive impact or an opportunity on your types of operations in the future?
So on the menu and all, definitely our menus now have been reduced. Less is better now. The choices are less. The clients are getting less choices because the number of people that are coming into our restaurants, our buffets, all the wellness. So if we had a menu of 40, 50, it has come down to 15, 20. And we've seen in in one of our food restaurants, we have the Benihanas and all. So we have seen that getting. You
have a Benihana by brand, or you have a Benihana type of operation?
No, we have the Benihana by brand. So we have the Benihana franchise too in the hotel. So that we have seen ingredients and flying in certain kind of meat has been because of the supply chain of flying and all, that has been cut by half. So the menu has been cut by half. So all the ones that are coming in from Japan and all, we don't get that regularly that's coming in. So that has been affected and all. But I feel in 1 year when everything is back to normal, I'm very positive that everything will go back to normal. I mean, people will but I see a lot of fine dining now. A lot of fine dining restaurants have come up now where 12 people, 24, where the chefs have started to bring in their certain clienteles and eat. So I think it's a more one-to-one than one-to-many kind of dining experience going on.
Well, I will tell you that Benihana is one of my favorites, and actually I have a certificate that I went to a Benihana class, and I can go ahead and do the volcano and things like that. So definitely coming to the resort. Definitely coming to the resort.
Thailand, you're gonna cook me dinner, yeah.
Yeah, it might be dangerous, you know, to have the knives. MJ, sort of the last question here for you, and then we're going to take a look at the poll. But the same question, you know, what food trends are emerging out of this? And I do recall, by the way, how long it took for Five Guys to put milkshakes in. But now with COVID and things, actually, you may have some new opportunities to introduce some things you didn't think about before. And so what kinds of food trends do you see emerging out of this that you'll continue to take advantage of? And I should point out that one attendee specifically asked if you were going to have more vegetarian and vegan friendly menus as well.
Yeah, so I'll address that one first. Not to my knowledge, right? we do have a couple of options on the menu now. They are certainly not the healthiest vegetarian options, but they certainly are delicious. Yeah, at this point, I'm not too sure what we have in the pipeline from a product development standpoint. In terms of the patterns, the first pattern we actually saw, I mentioned bottled drinks actually increasing, but we actually saw a drastic decrease, right? So everybody's working from home. They have their beverage of choice at home. So they were not ordering drinks as much. Further, our bottled drink selection is much smaller than if you go to the freestyle, where there's, I don't even know how many combinations you can get of, you know, cherry, Fanta, Dr. or Pepper. So you have so many options there, and then you have 5 bottles, right? So you just drink what you have at home, and that's it. What we have seen in terms of food, I wouldn't say it's, we've seen our normal seasonal patterns. We've actually just seen an increase in quantity, right? So in some regions where we have high milkshake incidence, maybe it's that just is increased. We have high fry incidence, that's increased, right? Places where, you know, we sell more regular burgers than little burgers. You know, average checks across digital platforms have increased over what we see in store, right? Whether they, you know, let me buy a burger for dinner too while I'm out, you know, I'll get lunch and dinner at the same time. I save on my delivery fees. They get it, you know, they have a spouse. Normally they're separate for their lunch. Now they're together, right? There's it's more volume than the actual food.
Right. People started doing family meals too.
Right, and the industry, the industry's done some crazy things that I've seen. You know, Texas Roadhouse turned into a full-blown grocer. Some of the pattern, you know, things you've seen. If you ever wanted to get a meal from Ruth's Chris or Morton's, you could do it at home for half the cost, right? So, you know, some of these side hustles, I think maybe you'll continue to see, but at the same time, you know, it's tremendous what people have been able to do on the fly, and to adapt to what people wanted. And in some of those, it's pattern based, and others it was out of necessity. But we're happy to see those checks increase for sure.
Well, listen, I want to thank you guys, but don't go anywhere. Could we go ahead and bring up the poll results? All right, so we asked our audience a few things, and we did ask them whether they were ready to go, and well, it looks like 50%-ish, yeah, 53% were ready to go, but 50% were not. I think that this interesting question, because we've asked this one in different parts of the world, and different parts were ready to go. So, you know, before we move from that question, I just sort of wonder what your thought is about that. That sort of takes me by surprise. I don't know how you think about that as to whether people were prepared or not. I think that's pretty telling, and that means they had to move fast. If they had to move fast, there may be a couple of things that they need to be thinking about going forward, like integration with their other systems. So MJ, you probably hit that as well. Do you guys want to just comment on that? Or did you find this a surprise?
You know, no. I mean, I think everybody was thought they were prepared for something like this. And then there were all the things that they just, I mean, we haven't seen a pandemic like this in 100 years, right? So there's nobody that would have, in the industry is in such a different place. You can have disaster response, you can have large scale economic fallout response plans, but how do you deal with all of that as the result of a medical crisis like this? I would say if I could have answered this, I would have said somewhat, right? We had certain things covered, we didn't have others. So yeah, I think we will be moving forward, more prepared if we were to see something in a shorter time frame. But I don't think anybody can really be at fault. You might have thought you did a great job, and then in hindsight's 2020.
Did the other hoteliers that you knew and other resort people you knew, are they in the 50% or were they a little bit further ahead, Celes?
I feel people in the hotel business had some technology, but they weren't using it. They had those video conferences, they had those kind of stuff. But when this COVID hit, they were forced to go into it very quickly, and they had to use it, trial and error, and they got better on the technology part of each. So it was in the back of everybody's hotelier's mind that they had like electronic menus and this and that, and they adapted very quickly to come into contactless kind of approaches in the technology part, check-ins and check-outs. They wanted to make it more efficient. So I think they're using it now.
So the next question was about whether operations would change their format to smaller spaces going forward to do more business and delivery. And I suppose, by the way, that also means that things like a ghost kitchen or something like that to do it. And 53%, had said that they believe that they will go to smaller operations. We already see that actually in the hotel business and travel through micro markets and prepackaged food, which a lot of hotels actually and cruise ships had to go, and colleges and universities had to go to prepackaged food. So that probably is not that surprising. But Celes, you might want to address number 3 here. I think you already sort of said it, but hotels will change their business models to attract more local customers and refocus on services that can be offered. And you were talking about the spas for day parts and things, but what about for food and beverage? And I'm not so sure we're going to see a lot of hotels going to rooms by the hour again, but how will they change? How do you change?
Yeah, so we were talking to a very big hotelier, and for the ROI for stay vacations will not work for long. That will not work where if I'm living in Bangkok, I go to the Oriental, or I go to another hotel to spend overnight, 1 day, 2 days. That may just happen once or twice. It's happening now. I see that a lot where stay vacations are there for, you just go in. But something else that I've seen that is very interesting is that they are actually opening hotels by the hours for co-workers. So you don't have to go to the office. You can just go into a hotel, check into a room, do your 1 hour office like this by the hour, and go back home. So that's also
very, very interesting concept, right? Because a hotel room does have a desk, it has connectivity, and it is safe and secure. And a lot of open spaces opened up for offices, and I think those open space plans are going away. And what a great ending thought there, actually, Celes, as just a creative way to sell more rooms. And I was thinking of something else by the hour, but you know what? That's a great way to do that, conference rooms and things as well. So listen, we don't have enough time to continue. We certainly could, but I want to thank our panelists. I did see in chat that there was information as to where to download the webinars after this, but also to send notes to the panelists. But they are also on the screen here. Any of us are willing to take continued questions. We tried to get to all of them, and we certainly want to stay in touch until we can meet in person. And I also would encourage you to take a look at the IFBTA if you're interested in food and beverage technology, whether you're in lodging, restaurants, or any sector in here. There's a lot of information, and I look forward to the day that instead of doing this virtually with you at FHA, instead we'll be in person again. But thank you once again to our panelists, MJ and Celes. Also, thank you to our organizers at Informa and with the FHA, and certainly to you, all of our attendees. We're going to take a break, and then the next session will continue on. So thank you very much for attending.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Stay safe.